This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate, where we educate and motivate all things real estate. Hey, this is Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team, and welcome back. It's Sunday evening. We are so excited to have you this evening, but I am only a single girl tonight. My partner in crime is not with me, but I have a special guest, Rick Marino. We're really excited to have you here. I'm very grateful to have you on the show, Rick.
Well, you know, since I can't get a job in the morning on radio in this town anymore, we'll have to settle for Sunday night.
I love it. I love it. Hey, so remember, everybody, this show is driven by your questions, so please be sure to send those in anytime at questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com. And this also is a podcast, so listen at your leisure. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and others. You can watch us also on YouTube or our favorite, Facebook. You can simply search The Talk of Music City. So yes, Rick Marino is in the studio tonight. I have, when I think of you, I go back so many years on the 92.9 show, Rick and Anna in the morning. Love it.
Yeah, that really was a long time ago, yet it wasn't. I mean, other than, it wasn't really 20 years ago. It was more like 20 pounds ago. It's a shame when you get to that age, when you start measuring time by what you weighed back then and what you were wearing.
I love that. Hey, well, you brightened up my mornings, so it's exciting to know that you're now in the industry that I love, which is real estate. So I'm excited to talk more with you, but just maybe share a little bit tonight about your story. You know, I think it's exciting. You know, how does one go from radio to real estate? And, you know, I think even go from Nashville to California and back, right?
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot there that we can talk about. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Well, actually, it's funny because I did radio for a long time before ever coming to Nashville.
Yeah.
But I also did real estate a long time before coming to Nashville.
Oh, wow.
I was licensed first in California back in 1992.
Okay.
And worked in Sacramento for a couple of years and sold real estate there. And at the time, you could still buy a house for under $200,000 in Sacramento.
Wow, yeah.
It's crazy. It's a totally different market now. But then I came here in late 93, early 94, and started working at one of the big country stations here in town. And worked there for a couple of years until a position opened up on 107.5 The River.
Okay.
Worked there for 4 years.
Wow.
In fact, I think I was the first guy to actually use, it was Y107 before that. And so I think I was the first person to actually break the moniker, the new slogan, on the air. Did that 4 years. Mix 92.9 hired me away. I met Anna, one of my dear friends. And Clint, who came from my hometown of Simi Valley, California.
Wow.
So it was Rick, Anna, and Clint for a long time, about 10 years.
Wow.
And then I came to this very building. In fact, my studio is right down the hall there.
Amazing.
Worked there for a couple of years. They sent me to California, which is why I went back.
Okay.
So I got to work at Kehei in the L.A. area. Ventura is where the hub was, but it kind of covered most of the L.A. area. And that was a great job. And I actually was reapplying for my California real estate license out there when my wife hated California.
Oh.
We were mortgage poor. Look, we made $1 million when we sold our house and we came back, so we weren't mortgage poor for long. But while we were there, it was a struggle. It's really hard to get ahead. So we decided we're going to come back to Tennessee. And so that's when I started trying to find the right situation. Monte has been a friend of mine for a long time. Love the guy to death.
Great
Smart
guy.
dude. He's been in the business. Moses gave him his first, he was the broker at his first guy named Moses, I think. But anyhow, so here we are. And it's really awesome to be back in this building with you.
Yes. Well, we're excited to have you with us this evening. And, you know, to be back into real estate, not knowing that you were in it before, that's exciting. I mean, you can definitely have seen some changes, right, over the years, you know.
Somebody should write a book on all the changes in the past 20 years. But here's the thing. What's happening here in Nashville? I know, another book. That's what we need. Somebody else to write a book.
We got Jim in the house tonight, too. So.
Heyo.
Jim and I worked together, too,
We did.
in radio.
We did, back in Mix 92.9 days.
Yeah, Jim was the production director there, one of the production guys.
One of them. One of two.
One of two.
Yeah.
It was 50. He was 50% of the production there.
Might have been like 85%.
That's true.
Because of the weight.
Right. I can relate to that. But anyhow, I've never been happier ever since getting out of radio and being able to sleep in. Seriously.
Sleeping in.
Sleeping in is
You
now
could
getting
do
up
that
at
in real
4.
estate?
Now I could get up at 4 o'clock as opposed to 2:30 every day.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But that's
'Cause
what
you
it
did the
is.
morning show. That's true. You're
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, no, there's been so much change in radio. What we're seeing here in Nashville is really what California's already been to. Like they say, as goes California, so goes the rest of the country. That mentality is coming here where you're getting multiple offers on so many different properties.
Right, yeah.
And so it's a different strategy, which is why I'm so concerned about these places that, hey, we'll buy your home, just call us and you won't have to show your property. You do realize that they're a middleman. They're going to buy your property and then sell it. They need to make money.
Right.
So you need to ask yourself, how much of that money do you need to leave on the table to make this so that you don't have to show your property? I mean, we could talk a whole hour just on that.
Right. Yeah. That's a hot topic. Even Monte likes to get all dabbled into that one. You're right. They're great marketing, creates a lot of curiosity, turns heads, gets you to call, and it's important for you to read that fine print, right?
Yeah. I would like to know if if you've got a moment, either call or write us or text us or whatever. Why is it that you'd like to give up all the equity in your house just so you can do a quick sell? I'm really curious. I'm not trying to be snotty here or anything. Why is it that you'd be willing to give away equity in your house so you don't have to show your property? Is it because maybe you feel that, man, I need to do some work to my house and I don't want to spend $15,000 to make an extra $15,000? In this market, you don't need to do that.
Right.
You need a good strategy, period. So is leaving money on the table the best strategy? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so either.
So many
I love
different
that.
ways to
Good
do it.
strategy. So, now as a real estate agent, and you've been doing it now for a bit, and you have quite a few closings under your belt and have some great knowledge to share. Share some of those strategies. Like what would you say would be, one of your number one strategies, of helping that client who is concerned about, I just don't, it's too much of a hassle. It's just too much work. I just rather just be done with it, get it off my plate, but then all of a sudden, we lost so much money.
One of the big strategies that a lot of realtors understand and a lot of sellers kind of really have to, you've got to show them this strategy, and it really has to sink in, is selling it for below list price.
Okay.
Because what does that do? Think about it. People want something. If they perceive a value, they're going to line up for it. I call it the Black Friday effect.
Okay.
Why are there 800 people in line at Walmart to buy a stinking DVD player that probably will be on sale later, right?
And they're not even there on Friday anymore. They're right there after they ate the apple pie, right, on Thursday evening.
So, but why do they do it? Mm-hmm. They want something that there's a limited supply of.
Right.
They want something that they don't want somebody else to have, right? So you have to think, what is driving the people there? Low prices. So you get people there by offering a product below market value.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you have to sell it. Remember, you can market it. That doesn't mean you have to accept the offer. And this is what you have to tell people. You can list it. If I told you this pen that I'm holding right now is, and if you knew this pen was worth $10,
okay,
all right? And you're a pen collector, and it's one of those really special pens, and you see that it's being sold for $8. Does that mean that you're going to pay $8 for it? If I'm the seller, I don't have to sell it to you. You can line up to get it, and because I've decided I don't want to sell it.
Okay.
It's the whole auction premise too, right? You don't have to sell it if you don't make the minimum bid. So you sell it for low, and then with the goal that if it's marketed correctly and with a good realtor, it will be that you're going to get multiple offers. Now, what multiple offers is a beautiful thing, because all of a sudden if you thought, oh man, I've got to spend $15,000 to make an extra $15,000. Mm-hmm. No, with multiple offers, if you've got more than one buyer wanting this house, all of a sudden they start overlooking stuff. It's like, I don't really care about, I was going to do an FHA, but I can do conventional. I'll do that. You don't need to make repairs. I really want this house.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, you're not needing to make the repairs. You may not have to, you might be able to get around even doing an inspection. Mm-hmm. It just depends on the property. Of course, all properties are different.
Right.
Might have to pre-qualify that by saying all properties are different. But that's the goal. It's to put together a strategy that will allow you to get more for that property.
And you've seen that.
And we do that all the time.
Yeah. That's huge. Now, is there a certain price point that works really well in? Does that, what type of price point do you think that's the best strategy?
Sure. I mean, if you have I just did it up in Springfield,
Okay.
actually. I just did it with a property that we actually sold it as is. She was really concerned that she had to put a lot of money into it. I said, well, look, let's do this. Let's sell it for under list price by about $10,000 or $15,000.
Okay.
And then let's see what happens. So we did that. First day we listed, we had 6 offers. So what happened? She sold more than what she got more than what she wanted, didn't have to make a dime for repairs, and it's conventional, and they're not even, so again, she got everything she wanted and then some because of our marketing strategy.
So she ended up lessening the list price, let's just say $10,000, right?
Yeah.
Did it come back up $10,000 or came in at list? Or
She sold it right at market value.
Okay. Yeah.
So she got $15,000 more. We listed
Wow.
it $15,000 under, and she got $15,000 more than what she listed.
So
it
she
at.
came right back to
She
square
got right
one.
back to where she needed to be, but she doesn't have to do any repairs.
Amazing. And then they
she's
got a conventional
loan, and,
right.
and we were able to sell it as is.
And you were the hero. Look at that.
Well, and so what price point? That was at a $200,000 listing.
Sure.
Now try it at a $2 million. Good luck.
Right.
It's a little harder in the luxury property.
Right. So keeping it at a good price point, probably under, what would you think? Under, you could do that under
you could
three?
do that under 3. Maybe even under, it just depends on the house.
Sure.
Even if it's a $400,000 house and all of a sudden it's marketed for $350,000, do you think you'll get multiple offers?
Yeah, I'm probably going to check it out.
You'd probably go check it out. Doesn't mean you have to sell it for $350,000. Ask your realtor or call us. We'll do it for you. We know better than you. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking.
Well, this is going to be a lot of fun, I think, tonight here with Rick Marino in the house. We're excited.
Just sign here.
I love it. We're excited to have you and grateful to have you here. Hey, so we're going to have a lot of discussion about real estate with the one and only Rick Marino. Hey, get that name right there. Rick
Marino.
Hey, I just called you Mick, Nick, and Rick. There you go.
I've been called so many things. I don't even answer to Rick anymore.
I love it. Hey, so Rick Marino's in the house. You've been listening to the talk of Music City Real Estate. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate, where we educate and motivate all things real estate. Carey Ann here with CMG Financial and my mortgage team, and we've got Rick Marino in the house tonight. Rick Marino.
It's a pleasure to be here with you today in place of Monte, who is my hero. That guy is amazing.
He is one. He is one that I am missing these last couple weekends. He is traveling and learning more about Realty One.
Yeah.
So that's Realty One Group. Let me get the name right. So Rick, we were talking about your favorite topic there about the iBuyer, one that is familiar to Monte as well, and you were talking, just finding the right strategies, and one that you could list under the house price, right? Position yourself in a way that creates a lot of curiosity, turns heads, gets really a lot of interest, produces some multiple offers situations, and then you might get that one offer, maybe hopefully conventional, no repairs, and now you're back to market value.
Right. And let's add to that. It's not just putting the number out there. There has to be a good marketing strategy because you have to create desire.
Sure.
If that weren't true, Saturn would still be here because they built a really good car. But what happened? Maybe their marketing wasn't everything that it should have been. So
Right.
Saturn is gone. Thank God they're still building cars in Spring Hill, close to where Jim lives.
Yeah.
Those lights keep you up at night, don't they? Don't you hate that?
A little bit. Not too bad.
But so a good strategy is there. It isn't really just price driven. Again, your realtor will help you put together a good strategy. But that's key. Knowing what you can do. Don't just give away your equity because I don't want people in my house to show my house.
Right.
Because let me tell you, every house is appealing to the right buyer. And
Right.
if you just want to give away your equity, then we'll buy your house. Call us. We'll buy it, right?
Sure.
If you just want to give it away because you just don't want to show it, look, we'll buy it. Then we'll do exactly what some of the other iBuyers do. We'll put a little money into it. We'll sell it for market value and make a bunch.
Yeah.
So.
They always say be a master of your craft, but, you can be a master at your craft, but you have to be a master at marketing, right? And it doesn't matter what industry we're in. But the reason why so many clients are calling those iBuyers is because they have done an amazing job at their marketing.
I think there's a little bit more to it. And I don't want to make anybody upset by this, but a lot of times I've heard from people that say, I just don't want a real estate agent to sell my house because it's my house and I don't want to pay a commission. Well, let's call it something else. What do you want to call it? Do you want to call it an iBuyer? You're going to spend the money because if your house is only worth, because of its current condition, such and such, you got to be really careful at these contracts because by the time you're done getting out under, you've already paid for all the repairs. You're walking away with next to nothing, and they're going to sell it at market value. And it's going to look brand new. So be very, very careful. If you don't want to pay a commission, what are you willing to pay?
Sure.
You're going to pay somebody else just because they're not calling it a commission? It's all the same. And real estate agents work very, very hard for their money, putting together a plan to make you more money. Keep that in mind.
Right. Interview those agents and find the right plan.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. So you were talking about, finding or how to find X value. Talk to me about that.
Okay. X value is what you're comfortable paying in a mortgage.
Okay.
All right. So your X value means there's a couple, there are a few ways to describe X. X is, I know I can qualify for Y, but after I pay my health insurance, Jim knows about that because when he qualified for his house in Spring Hill, it's, by the way, worth a lot more than when you bought it 15 years ago, right?
15 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so it's worth a lot more. But when you qualified at the time, you didn't know about health insurance. You didn't, your health insurance had been calculated into the equation.
Right. I based the health insurance payment off of what I was paying in Vegas for a different company.
Sure. So your
less.
your net income, and again, like we were just talking, the lenders work off of the gross income for qualifications, right? So
I'm qualified for Y, but after I pay my car, after I support my lifestyle, I like to go out and have 12 cocktails on every Tuesday and Thursday night.
Okay.
Not me, I'm just saying. You know what? There's a value to that, right?
Sure.
What does it cost? Are you willing to give that up because you want to pay exactly what you're qualified for? Nobody does. So only you know what your X value is.
Right.
Here's what I qualify for because I've already spoken to Carey Ann and she told me, but I know what my lifestyle is. So after I tell her, look, I spend this much for entertaining. We like to travel. At the end of the month, this is what I'm comfortable paying in
Every
a mortgage.
month, right?
That's your X value. So how do you get that? Do you just go out there and start looking at houses? No, it really comes down to getting your pre-qualification and not holding anything back, being very honest with your lender.
Right. That's important.
And it only takes you about 5 minutes to get somebody pre-qualified, right?
Yeah, it'd be 5 to 10 minutes. You want to make sure it's not a long time, but the lender should be asking you a lot of questions because the more questions they can ask, the more information they can gather, and the right mortgage can be created. It's customizing the right mortgage to fit your long and short term, financial goals is really what's important here.
And I bet you feel sometimes like you're being a little overly intrusive asking some of the questions, right?
Sure.
But it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on it because that's one thing that we talk about. I said the computer system only knows what your minimum payments are on the credit cards and all of your debts that are on the credit report. It does not know what you like to eat. It does not know what you like to wear, your entertainment, schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So really break that down. Take a moment, pause. I think if we pause and we slow the process down just a hair, it will allow everybody to really back into this the right way. Because I think figuring out exactly what you feel comfortable paying every month is so important. Because somebody tells me that they're comfortable paying $1,200 a month, let's just say. Well, I know that they've already thought through that. That number in their mind is what they're thinking. Everybody has a monthly mortgage payment budget or housing budget that they have. All of a sudden, I tell them that, I can get them at $1,150. It's a wow, right? That's my plan because we want to wow them. Or I say, for the particular house that you're looking for, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, it's going to require you to be at this price point. You're not going to have that monthly payment. We might need to be adjusting our search a little bit. So backing into not only what you qualify for, but what you're comfortable with is important. And we ask that question on day one. The first question is what we usually ask.
Diet supplements. See, I wish I had known what I was going to be spending now 20 years later on diet supplements.
My goodness.
I would have calculated that into my mortgage.
5-hour energy.
We're moving our real estate show into the health show. Should you really be taking diet supplements?
No, I'm just playing. But you go to Macy's, you like to shop.
Sure.
do you normally check your bank account to see what you can spend, or do you just go spend at will?
Right.
And to find out, I'm sorry, your card's been rejected. I know, Jim, that's never happened to you.
Ever.
But you know, it's embarrassing when it happens.
Right.
Because all of a sudden there you are going, oh my gosh, I guess I should have checked my bank account first. Getting pre-qualified is akin to that. It's the same thing. You need to know what you're going to spend. And here's where it helps, because as a real estate agent, I know who's on my website looking at houses, and I could see what you're looking at. And why that's beneficial to my clients is that I'm able to, when they're looking at houses, I can say, hey, this one here that you just looked at, it's already under contract. It still shows active. The agent hasn't updated. And in this very competitive market, when we're getting multiple listings on houses, you want your realtor to be proactive and to check these things for you. So in the process of doing that, how do I know what you're looking for unless you're able to tell me, hey, I've spoken with my lender and she said I'm qualified for Y, but I really want X. This is how much I want to spend. And so then Carey Ann will say, if you're looking at X, then you're in the 200 or the 300 or the 400, whatever, $1 million price range. Those are the houses you should be looking at. You can save all the time and all that extra competition and headache of knowing, well, I know you want this house, but your payment's going to be $400 a month more than what you really want.
Right.
You'll save all that time and all the headache by knowing what your X value is.
Right.
That's why you get pre-qualified first.
You know, there's a lot of systems online as well where you can calculate your own payments, right? But that doesn't mean that you're qualified for that payment too. And you also want to make sure that the system is actually calculating the correct payment. So it's not only principal and interest. If you're not putting 20% down, you have mortgage insurance, and then you've got your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance, all part of that. And if you're looking at a townhome versus a single family home, you may have HOA dues, right? So there's a lot that goes into what you think you're calculating. Similar to, I saw what my credit score was online, and we'll talk about that here in the next segment. But, my credit score is this, but you told me it was that, right? We hear that story a lot as well. So this is really good information we're talking about tonight here with Rick Marino, and excited to continue the conversation all about real estate. And you've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Talk of Music City Real Estate, where we educate and motivate all things real estate. Carey Ann here with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And if you're just joining us this evening, we have Rick Marino in the studio with us. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Carey Ann. Good to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, and we've been talking about the X Factor. I love that. And what about that is important to you?
X Factor is what you want to pay for a mortgage.
Okay.
Even though you're qualified for Y, that doesn't really count, because too many times we see people, or they're qualified for an amount, and my golly, they're out there pushing it.
Yeah.
And then what happens at the end of the month, they realize, man, I feel mortgage poor. I just did that in California.
Right.
It's not fun to be mortgage poor. We qualified for it, but man, it really hurt because we know what we want to spend, and we were right at the edge of it. But in California, it's difficult, because to find a house that's worthy of living in, anything where you want to pay isn't habitable. Is that a word? Habitable?
Habitable.
Habitable.
Is that?
I like habitable better.
We'll go with that.
Can we change it?
It's been changed.
Here, I'm calling Webster.
I'm making a note of it right now.
All right.
I love
So
it.
not very habitable. So, but here in Tennessee, we still have that luxury of knowing and paying what our X factor, what we want it to be, and still finding a great property. But we are finding out, as people are moving here from all over the place, there's probably something we should talk about. We should talk about how people from out of town are coming here, realizing our low prices you get a lot more house for the money.
Sure, yeah.
And they're driving our price up. How do they do that, Carey Ann? Because they say, you want $250 for this? I'll give you $300. Back home, it's worth $700.
Right.
So they perceive a value, and they're pushing it up. Kind of like we were talking about before, when you list your house below market value, you tend to get a little bit more. But anyhow, my name's Rick Marino. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
I sell real estate.
It sounds like you've been on the radio before, too.
Oh, a time or two.
So going back to that, that X factor, which I think is important. So if you are someone that's a consumer out there and you're looking to get pre-qualified, making sure that lender's asking you, have you done a budget letter? It's so funny. We have those, and you're sometimes embarrassed to ask the customer or the consumer to walk through that with you. But I think it's really important. I mean, that's going to help you in the long run, like you say. So you're not, more or feeling feeling that mortgage poor, that mortgage pressure. Interest rates right now, we're really blessed. They're low, and they're probably going to be low till maybe next year, which is great. Clearly, the economy is going to force that to make a shift, but take advantage of that, which means that you may be able to, keep the same price point that you were going to get a year ago, a little bit lower. Do you want to stretch that, or do you want to take advantage of being able to buy some furniture in there and, enjoy your family time with activities, et cetera, right? So find and figure out what your budget is monthly. Remember all those extracurricular activities you like to do. My little one started school last week, and actually 2 weeks ago, and first grade, but there's a lot different from first grade from pre-K. We're in this activity, we're that, and the clothes start to cost more. I was at the Kohl's, jumping jeans. They were $3.99 a pair of pants. Now they're a little more expensive, right? So life changes with everything. So just kind of working through your budget is key, because you can fall in love. And this is so hard for me, is because people call me up and they say, I found the perfect house. And then I have to be the bad guy to tell them, A, they don't qualify, or B, you do qualify, but that price point is so much higher. And now all of a sudden they feel obligated to pay that because they so want that and they feel in love with it. If we backed the process up a few steps and slowed it down and paused a moment and really started to prepare your financial, mortgage in a way that you feel really good about it, now you're walking with confidence into those houses or into that search, that Rick is sending you.
Well, you've got to put the cart before the horse, or do you not? Let me think here. Well, because a lot of people want to put the cart before the horse. They want to just go look at the house. Oh my gosh, this is my dream house. But that's not really the way you need to do it. Right. You need to get your finances first, get the pre-qualification, know your X value, then go look. And that will make things so much easier. Your realtor will know exactly what to send you. It's good to kind of have an idea of the area. Your realtor can help you with that, especially if you're new to Middle Tennessee. You want to know what value do I get living in Spring Hill versus Springfield, or Murfreesboro. And what value? Well, the pricing is so extreme. It's so extremely different. So that's why it's good to have a good strategy with a real estate agent to help guide you through that. But it all starts with a call to Carey Ann.
Yeah.
And let me say that your realtor isn't doing you a service if your realtor isn't telling you, please, let's get you pre-qualified first.
And I think sometimes I hear the storylines of, I don't want to have them frustrated, or I don't want to lose them as a customer, so we just don't talk about the financing piece. But I will tell you the percentage of how many applications come in after contract is already written is amazing. The percentages are so much higher than what they used to be. If you as the consumer took a moment, and even though you think you can get approved with no trouble, right? And there's a lot of us out there that know they can get a loan. Why not take a moment and get pre-approved? That credit report is going to be good for 120 days. What if your credit score, because what you thought online was a great credit score, when the lender pulls that, they're using different algorithms. So the score is going to be different than what you see on the online credit companies. So let's just say that score is 10 points lower than what you saw online. And maybe you still can get a loan, but what if we could take the time to actually boost that score up 10 points, and now you're at a different threshold, your interest rate's better, the mortgage insurance factor may be lower. There's a lot of great things you can do. So just taking a moment and preparing yourself to get the best mortgage possible, because sometimes people are like, oh, I've got this score and I'm just going to compete against all these lenders. That's not always the best thing either, right? If you're just picking a lender just because they have the lowest rate, that doesn't mean they're going to give you, they're going to get you to the table on time. You and I have heard those stories multiple times, right?
Sure, right.
Where sometimes they go towards the lowest rate, but not the total experience, right? And so taking a moment and actually positioning yourself with someone that you can trust, that you know that will get you to the finish line, that has a guarantee. We were talking last week with a great moving company, Dustin Black, and he talked about all the great ways about and the things that you should look for when it comes to a moving company. And when it comes to a lending institution, it's not always about the interest rate either. It's about the whole package. It's all about making sure that you are helping that client from the start to the end. And there's a lot that goes into that. We've tried to create a two-touch process, which means that, we're only going to have you gather documents twice. There's some lenders that have you go all over the place to get documents, and then I'm getting the call at the last minute that the loan is blown up and we have problems. Just last week, I got a call from somebody saying, hey, I'm about to extend this contract now for the fourth time. Okay, fourth time. I would say, ding, 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 ding. That would be your problem. Right there. Start there. Anytime you extend more than twice, we need to know more about the story. And they blame the financing. I just need 1 more week. I just need 2 more weeks. When you start to hear this, you're like, let's really look at it. So I take the application. It was late one night last week. And as I'm talking to the customer, I'm asking all those questions we're talking about, right? Budgets and this. And I start asking one question leads to another. And then this door opens that door, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're working with a qualified lender, they're going to ask you more than your basic questions, okay? Because they want to really get to the root of why the issue came about. And or if you're not in an issue, we want to make sure you don't have any issues down the road, right? So this client in the first 45 seconds. Now, keep in mind, the other lender had it for 45 days. In my first 45 seconds, I picked up 2 things that were red flags. Literally, it was like, bing, bing. And I knew exactly that this loan could not go the way that this lender wanted it to go. And waiting 2 more weeks will not change the fact that this loan will never qualify for an FHA loan, right? Because of what they reference. You can't change the guidelines. I wish I could, people say I have a magic wand and I, have twiddle my nose, et cetera. But no, you can't do that with FHA,
it's experience.
Right? Yeah. So,
experience matters.
And then I realized that there's no way to get them approved. So how does one in the first 5 minutes or even 45 seconds know that this is not going to happen and another lender waits 45 days? That's what we're talking about. So taking a moment and pausing and actually not getting too excited, but taking a moment and really figuring out if that loan is true. Can you get a true loan?
Carey Ann Sear, CMG Financial. If you just call her first, you'll cut out all the other problems.
I love that.
It's true.
But there's so many great, lenders out there, but it is just finding the right lender, right? Not just somebody who just started their job and thinks they can make quick money because they're in the mortgage world, really taking the time to look through, and talk through your short and long-term financial goals. I think that's really important.
And sometimes you should also remember that you can really buy down the rate.
Yeah.
Right. Discount points. So what do you want how low does your rate need to be for me to get this, loan? Keep in mind, I call that bait and switch lending. People, you call it whatever you want, but I call it bait and switch. In other words, where you'll go to maybe a less reputable lender who is promising, hey, I'll give you you get a 2% interest rate. You bought that down. But now will they be able to close it? No. I mean, maybe not. That's where experience and having a good reputable lender makes a big difference. Right?
I think that's important. There's something that people don't maybe not know about. We used to do it a long time ago, where they talk about buy downs, but you can do a 2-1 buy down. Where you buy the interest rate down 2 points, or you could do a 1-year buy down, and it's basically your first 12 months kind of inch you into a payment. Right now, the key to that is understanding what the payment's going to be the second year or the third year, making sure you're comfortable.
Is that like an ARM?
No, it's a fixed mortgage, but let's say the going interest rate today is 3.875. Let's just use that. So the first year, if you did a 2-1, could potentially be, what is that? 3, 2, 1, 1.875, 2.875, then end at 3.875. So that could inch you. But really that's very costly to do. So the 1 year is popular, which could get you down to 2.875, which would be a great, interest rate. And again, credit qualified buyers, you have to talk through every loan's different, rates are different, and that's not really what the going rate is, but that's just an example.
I want to know more about this. Can you tell me a little bit more about this in the next segment?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick pause, but when we come back, we'll talk more about different mortgage options with buy downs, etc. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Talk of Music City Real Estate, where we educate and motivate all things real estate. Carey Ann here with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And we've got Rick Marino in the house, real estate agent.
It is such a pleasure to be here with such a very cool person. It's always calm and collected, and you do such a great job. Write that down. She's cool, calm, and collected. I love it.
I got it.
Tell my daughter that.
But the last segment, you mentioned something about buying down interest so you can have a year or maybe 2 years
And I have a question
of having a lower payment.
From a layman's term, viewpoint over here, if someone's got the money to buy down an interest rate, why wouldn't they just like put it towards the house? You know, in the car business, where I was from, if somebody wanted a certain payment on a car, and I knew that, you know, a $50,000 car would be like a $800 a month payment.
Right.
They're like, well, we only pay $500 a month for it. Be like, you know, that's completely possible. How much you putting down? We can get you there. It just takes money to get that.
Well,
you know.
I'll say it. When you're writing a contract, sometimes closing costs are added in, and all the closing costs don't necessarily need to go towards the in other words, let's say you have 3.5% closing costs, and only 2.5% is actually needed.
Sure.
You can just buy down with discount points to buy down that rate a little bit.
Right. So there's multiple different.
So maybe what do you do?
Yeah.
You front load it? Is that what you do? You front load it to get the first couple of years?
Yeah. So there's multiple different options out there. And again, you know, talking through these different programs, it all depends upon the program, right, that you can use.
Sure.
It also depends upon if you're qualified to do that program from a credit score standpoint. But I think there's something called an amortization chart that you and I can look at, and it breaks down your recoup time. So if you're going to spend $2,000 for this interest rate, right? And it saves you so much money. When are you going to recoup that $2,000? And if your game plan is to stay there longer than that recoup time, you're going to be in the green, right? So we're talking about green and red. So, you know, taking the time to talk to a lender, not just about, I want this house and that's the payment, you know, really break it down. You know, could I take a little extra money and put it towards lowering the rate? And, you know, how much money can that save me over the long term or over the next 30 years if you do a 30-year mortgage?
I see.
Yeah. Because right now you're 15 years into yours, right? And sometimes, you know, we say, oh, we'll be in our homes only for so many years, right? It used to be a lot less. And some of us are staying in our homes a lot longer, right? So we really want to set it up where, you know, do you want to do a 30-year? Are you comfortable doing a 20-year? How about a 15-year, right? There's some marketing that's out there on the web right now trying to merge everybody to 15 years. Well, that's a great marketing, you know, strategy, right? Because it is smart. Why pay interest, and some of it is not tax deductible anymore, depending upon your, you know, the size of your mortgage, right? So you want to just make the wise choice. But there's many different mortgage programs out there. So you can do a 30-year fixed mortgage or a long-term mortgage, which is a fixed mortgage. Again, those come in those different terms that we reference. You can look at an ARM, and an ARM payment is basically where maybe you do a 3-year ARM or a 5-year ARM or 7-year ARM. You're looking at that interest rate only fixed for that first 3 years or that first 5 years, depending upon which ARM that you qualify for. And those ARMs come in different types of mortgages, conventional and FHA. And again, there's different guidelines for both, right? And so what happens after that third year if you're on a 3-1 ARM? Are you going to be comfortable with the after effect, right? Now, if you plan to only be and you know exactly that you're only going to be in that home for 2 years, well, a 3-1, you know, ARM may be something that would be comfortable for you and your family. But just not giving somebody that in hope they're comfortable later, that's just not how I operate. You want to make sure that they understand the end game, you know, what could happen.
So I have a question. So if somebody's relocating,
yeah,
and maybe they're new to a job and they're new to the area and they realize that, you know what, I might not have as much expendable income, would an ARM like that be a good option? Knowing that I need a couple years to get settled in and then I don't mind my full mortgage payment?
Sure. And right now with the rates being as low as they are, ARMs aren't as attractive because you can still just be comfortable at a 30-year at a very low interest rate, right? And your payment being very comfortable. But I think if we look at both the payment on the fixed and also on the ARM and we see the difference, if it's not a huge difference, the ARM and the more conservative way is where I think you should go.
Well, you mentioned that people aren't staying in houses or they're actually staying in houses longer now. Well, you have to remember 20 years ago, even during 2007, we didn't fluctuate much. Houses remained, the inflation rate here was nowhere what it is now. Now you get 17% change in your house in some areas in a single year. It's crazy. Back then, you could go 3-4 years and your house would only fluctuate a little bit. I remember my first house I bought here, after 7 years, it only went up $23,000.
Wow.
7 years.
That's frustrating.
Now it does that a month. Right? It's crazy.
We're blessed to be in an area where there's so many people that are moving here that are helping, you know, with that for sure. I was talking with my neighbor just yesterday and they kindly shared how much they paid for their home so many years ago, and I look at my house and theirs, and it was a huge difference, right? So they're retiring early, if their expenditures stay put, but they've done a really good job, so depending upon the area of Middle Tennessee, and when you purchase, you're definitely looking at some good values there. But going back to the different mortgage programs, mortgage programs, you talked earlier about conventional, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody wants to get to conventional. Well, not everybody qualifies for conventional, and not everybody. The conventional loan is not the best for everybody. So depending upon your credit score, your lender may have you go one direction or another. So I always say anybody usually a 680 or higher could easily go conventional. Now understand that Fannie and Freddie, which is the conventional agencies, their guidelines allow you down to a 620. Okay. However, your interest rate is so much higher and your mortgage insurance is so much higher. When I priced out somebody last week, their monthly mortgage insurance on a 620 was over $400 a month. Why would you do that? No, just to get that conventional, right? So sometimes we have to go there because the house only qualifies for conventional, but an FHA or a different type of loan may be more attractive for that client. Or you and I take a moment, like we said, pause, and work to get that 680 to that 700, 720, 740 score to boost that up.
This is like a master's class with a master at mortgage, Carey Ann here. So that said, in a town with a big service industry and a growing service industry, what does it take to qualify for somebody in the service industry to get a conventional loan?
So you mean like your bartenders and...
Yeah, right. I mean, what kind of income do they need to show? A lot of people are making tips. Yeah,
so the nice things compared to when I was serving, and that's kind of how I started my career here in Nashville when I moved to pursue music. But I think we have an amazing, service industry here. And some folks in this industry are making a lot of money, where it makes me think, back how much we were making back in the day selling my $2.99 fish and chips, too funny. But basically now, in comparison to what they used to do, is all of the tips are claimed. Majority of the tips are claimed, depending upon, if they're not. But they should, they do need to claim their tips. So if they don't show any income on paper, it's very hard for me to help. But if they do show money on paper, we can average. If they're considered self-employed, we average. And if you are W-2'd, we would average that over the course of 2 years. Now, the nice thing with our company is, let's say you bartended at bar A for a year, and then you jumped, for 6 months to another bar, and then you're back to another. We can average all of those over the course of 24 months, which is a nice thing.
Does college experience count as job experience?
Absolutely. So the lender's going to ask you about your last 2 years of work history, and if college is part of that, that can be included for sure. And so if you go to Vanderbilt where you're paying $80,000 a year, can you say, oh yeah, my income's $80,000? I love that. No, not really, but you would hope that $80,000 college education is helping you receive a good salary, today. But there's a lot that goes into it. Earlier we talked about the X factor. So I love that part, really just taking a moment and figuring out what that X factor is for you. What are you comfortable paying every month for that house? Because everything else can come into play. And with that X factor, you know exactly what house price point to be looking at. So you're saving your time looking from $100,000 to $1 million when you can just hone in on exactly what you're looking for, which means your chances of actually winning that house, you can be on top of it. So it's pretty absolutely awesome. And take a moment, and think about your credit score. So if you see what's online, give yourself that 60 days to get pre-approved. Talk to a lender, because that credit score is going to be different when that lender pulls it. And don't be surprised, right? Just be prepared. And I think if you lead with preparation, it's going to be a huge win. And you should always start with a call to Carey Ann. Please start with a call to your lender and then let the real estate agent take it from there. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking to get pre-approved, our number 456-4456. We'd love to begin that process for you. And if you are looking at real estate, Rick Marino, your real estate agent and consultant, where can they find you online there, Rick? Well, it's easy. Nash as in Nashville, MLS as in multiple listing service.com, or just Google me. NashMLS.com. I'll be happy to help. Well, it's been so fun having you here. You're a lot of energy, electric. I love it. Too much. I love it. It's just grateful. Monte and I are thankful to have you on the show. Thank you to all of our listeners. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 5 p.m. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.